بشکند اون دستی که با اینها همکارند.
So one of the things I mentioned in introduction was how I think in this age of incredible amounts of information and us being bombarded by it with in so many directions, we've gained an incredible breadth of knowledge about issues in the world, but maybe we've sacrificed a bit of depth with it. So this night was really about giving that depth, giving that sort of information that you don't get in your TikToks or Instagrams or media. And the two things that we focused on was the plight of the Hazara people in Afghanistan, and then we also collaborated with the Women Life Freedom Society, and they talked about Iran and the Iranian protests. I think Manchester is actually incredible for how aware people are here and how emphatic really they are about women's rights, even internationally. But one thing I could, if I was to say something that could be better, is what I mentioned in the last question, the depth of understanding. Because, for example, I'm sure a lot of people understand that women's rights isn't incredible in places like Afghanistan and Iran and Saudi Arabia. But in each of those countries, there's a very, very different reason for why it's different. Whereas I think with most people, they just blanket it as it being Islamic in those countries. So I think gaining a more in-depth understanding of exactly what causes the nuances between the differences of how women are treated in different countries would be the next step.
بشکند اون دستی که با اینها همکارند.
I think one of the biggest things I could recommend is obviously there's the social media accounts. Obviously follow them and try to gain a breadth with that. But honestly, I think one of the best things to do is actually start reading books about these issues, because although we think that we can get a good amount of information from Instagram posts and news, even news from TV and stuff, there's only so much you can say within an Instagram caption or TikTok video or even a 1 minute news clip. And I think just reading books about these issues will give you a much more profound and subtle understanding about these problems we have. We have a very active Instagram account called Ioan Afghan Society. So whenever we have any event, we post on there. As for the next event we're planning, we are planning a big dinner, kind of charity dinner in December. So that's something to look forward to. And then in the beginning of second semester, we have this thing called Charity Week, Afghan Charity Week, where because we're part of the ACW, which is it's called Afghan Charity Week, it's basically this UK university Afghan Students Association, and for that charity week we essentially fundraise loads. Last year we were able to fundraise upwards of £1,500. We were very proud of that, but this year we just want to get even further. So yeah, I mean there's a few things and the best way to keep updated is the Instagram. Yeah, we think it's an incredible thing and we would definitely be interested in attending. But I think one dimension it could definitely get a lot better in is international scope of what it addresses. One thing I was honestly slightly disappointed in, not just at Manchester, but in general, like the social media scene, was just how little was being said after the Taliban takeover about the plight of women in Afghanistan. I mean, this is a country where literally upwards of tens of millions of people, where half of them overnight completely lost all their rights to education, to freedom to go outside, to essentially be human, right? And I don't think, honestly, there was much being said about that at all, which was very disheartening. So I think again, it's not something specific to Manchester, but I think one thing we could do to definitely address that is have a more international scope with Reclaim the Night.